Hey, this is Don Johnson at Airbrush The Magazine with another little artist interview. This one will actually be probably 2 or 3 parts with Ed Beard because I think he's got a lot of information that will help a lot of people. I have to thank Tammy at Tamco Paint, Jack at Jewelers, Ken at Fisheye Filters, and Don at Maple Airbrush Supplies for helping to make this possible. Ed, introduce yourself.
Well, hello, Don, and thanks for having me on. My name is Ed Beer Jr. I've been illustrating for books and games for the last 35 years and airbrushing since 1979.
Long time.
Yes.
We've both been around a while.
Yeah, we're old dogs, yep.
Yeah. How'd you first get into it, and where has it taken you?
So, well, back in '79, we all were building hot rods, of course. So my buddy had a Camaro, and he said, it'd be great if we could take some of your art and put it on the vehicle. And I'm like, well, I got to figure out how that can be done. So I went to the art supply store, and back in those days with the old Badger 150.
Yeah.
And I picked it up, practiced a little bit, and basically went to town on his vehicle. And I don't know if it came out okay or not, but it was our own vehicle, so it didn't matter at that point. He's getting the job for free. But I from that point on, I was basically just practicing until I got the real hang of it before I actually went into business in 1982, where I was completely self-employed and actually started going from garage to garage. And I did the automotive stuff for about 10 or 12 years. I did the World of Wheels and all the, Daytona and Sturgis and Laconia and stuff. But then eventually I'd always wanted to do publishing, always wanted to get into comic books and games, illustrating for Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. And of course, back in those days, there was no internet, so you had to go through the mail. Stuff would sit on some art director's desk forever. And it was finally a friend of mine who owned a comic book store, and I was in there doing airbrush T-shirt comic characters and stuff. And he's like, you should really go to this big convention called Gen Con. And it's the biggest gaming convention around, and save up some money, buy a booth, show your art, and maybe one of the publishers will stop by and see your stuff and hire you. And that's exactly what I did. And it was 1991. And I was there first day. Guys over from TSR came over from Dragon Magazine. They said, we like your work. Definitely something we could use in the future. And about a year or so later, I got hired. And then that one thing led into the next, which was the gaming industry. The Magic the Gathering card game came out 93. I got hooked up with them right from the start, and I never thought that game would succeed like it is, and here we are 27 years later, and it's still going.
Oh, it's gone nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, Don, little pictures that I drew with colored pencil and like what would be a comp sketch, just a sketch,
right, are
going for $20,000. Now, I'm not, man. I sold those things for $250, you know?
Yeah.
But it's absolutely crazy the money that original art can get nowadays and stuff. So, it was a great time. I did 120 cards, I think, for the company over 11 years. And I got to travel all over the world because the way the tournaments for these card games are, they have Grand Prix and World Tours, much like any other sport competition, kind of like chess, I guess. And they took me all over. I went to Japan and Germany. So I got to meet people from all over the world that got exposed to my art that would not have otherwise done because the cards had the name on the bottom of the artist. So they look you up. So at the time of the internet, once that came out in 92, 93, that at the same time, roughly between 93 and 94, all those magic cards, the world's audience now, for the first time ever, artists were able to connect with. So that definitely helped in my career. And then, well, from that I went into licensing and had my art on stuff that was at Spencer Gifts and Hot Topic and all that, the horror market, science fiction and fantasy. So.
Do you still have them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, right now about 50% of my income is from licensed products. So I stopped working for Wizards of the Coast in 2005. There just wasn't enough money in it. I actually was doing better with my businesses because I own retail stores, collectible hobby stores, and a lot of them are Renaissance fairs. I own buildings at Renaissance fairs across the country. So because I work in fantasy a lot and with science fiction and fantasy, because of the D&D and the Dungeons & Dragons game art, it was a natural thing to get into medieval fairs. So we had all those locations going on, and I just was like, you know what? I've got to focus my attentions in that department. I was split so many ways.
Yeah.
And so this it started with that. In about 1998, 99, I started to get really well received at the different locations of the Renaissance fairs, building a good collector's audience. And they were demanding of me some unique art. They said, "Look, we love your stuff from publishing, but what do you have in your own portfolio?" So I started doing a calendar, the Dragon calendar for Barnes and Nobles and Borders, and it was done through Tidemark, the company, the publishing company, and that gave me an opportunity to do 12 different paintings every year, new stuff that I owned. And well, from that, every piece that I did, I wound up contacting puzzle companies and t-shirt companies, and they started using the art. And this is what I always tell my students: is, every piece of original art you have, even if it's just for one company, or if it's for yourself, has potential to be marketed, and you can make that into something that actually continues to make you money.
Yeah.
You can put it on different products, cell phone covers and laptop covers and bed sheets and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and it's been very good to me for the last 25 years. And in fact, I just had two puzzles that were they actually were at Walmarts and Targets and all that stuff over the holiday. Wizards and Dragons.
Right.
So I get to do the stuff that I got in trouble in like 7th grade.
For doing study hall.
Oh yeah. So
But you really worked hard at it and pursued it, and I think that's the important thing. You took action and went after it. You didn't sit back.
Yeah. One of the things I did right out of high school, and I was motivated by this. It was kind of funny. It was I would call it a reverse psychology type motivation, but it was my art teacher hated me with a passion. It was the mid 70s, and she loved modern art. She loved the modern art movement. If there was a still life, the only thing that she would like to see is either it better be exactly like the bicycle and the fruit bowl or whatever it was. But if you did anything that was fantasy, sci-fi, and horror with it, she'd come over and say, "Oh God, that representational crap comic stuff. It is not a true art form." She hated it. So I knew I wasn't going to get very far with that class. So she kept grading me F on every project I did. Wow. And at this point, I was just like, this is not working out for us, so I'm just going to part my ways. So she kind of sabotaged the ability for me to go to school and college because I didn't have any credits, and therefore I couldn't get any grants and scholarships and stuff. So I just said, that's okay. I'm not going to let this woman defeat me. I don't care what she thinks. I'm going to make a good career out of it. Right. So I was really pursuing, number one, I wanted to do it. And two, I was damned if she was going to prove me wrong. So I thank her for that motivation. But I also vowed that would never happen to any of the people that I come across, the young talent that I would come across throughout my life. And so I started volunteering teaching classes at the YMCA, actually, at the time, in the early 80s. And then from that, I wound up continuing and working for different art supply stores. And eventually, I wound up going to colleges across the nation, which is kind of funny. I used to get paid to come into the senior class to do portfolio review and talk to the kids about how can they market their stuff, how are they going to be able to succeed at paying their student loans back. Right. And, here I was with the guy that had zero academic teaching, kicked out of the class.
It works that way a lot, I think. So.
Yeah. Well, you got to love it. I always tell my students, look, if you're interested, if you have a trust fund or you're independently wealthy, then this might be a good field for you to play with. If you're looking to actually pay your bills doing art, you better find a way that your style and technique fits and where it can be done. And you better be diversified. Don't plant all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. Which was the other reason I used to tell, people say to me, well, what do you do? I said, I'll paint on any surface and anything with any material that you have that you pay my bills for. Right. I mean, I was doing clawfoot tubs, iron tubs with foliage and gold leaf to custom hot rods, and then portraiture from oils. You had to learn it all. Yeah. And I still tell my students, it doesn't matter what the medium is, as long as you're using your creativity. Obviously, some jobs and some companies can become redundant if it's just you following instructions. You do your best, but if you want to be self-employed, then you have to find something that you can connect with the public, an idea or a concept that is popular, and find a way to make it your own, and then present that. And then I tell my students, I say there's business things about it too. There's things that you have to do in order to get your work into the marketplace. That may be going to trade shows. It's going to cost you money. So it means you got to save your money buy that booth. It's going to be $1,000 or $2,000, but it'll be, at least you'll know you've done everything you can to present your work to the right market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have an airbrush school. We can touch on it real briefly, but in the next little episode, we can get into it in depth if you want.
Yes.
Just say briefly about the airbrush school and how people can get a hold of you about that.
Sure. So I have my own classes that are twice a year, April and then December. This class for this coming year, this year is December, 13th through the 15th. And it's basically only maximum of 8 students, very one-on-one. This class is actually developing your skill in anatomy, human anatomy, and working with how do you take that human anatomy and transform it into a mythological thing, whether it's a gargoyle or a harpy. Because both male and female. And I work in graphite in this class, so we work on the shading tones, the values. So it's both control of the pencil work and the line work, and it's conceptual. It's getting a good foundation, understanding your light sources, things like that. Right. And so I have students from all ages. I mean, they're running the whole gamut of 16, 17, 18, right through to 75. I mean, whatever.
That's great.
A lot of professionals will come in, as well as amateurs. I have a mixed class. And the beauty of that is, in my class, I don't force all my students to do the same subject. It's a very different type format. What I do is I give them limited reference material. They all have that, and they get to pick their own out of a selection of 5 or 6 different versions of that reference material, and then they have to make that into something unique that no one else is doing.
Right.
So everyone is doing the same discipline of the medium, but they're doing their own unique approach to it.
Right.
That way, when they walk out of the class, they have a really nice, unique piece that's their own,
right.
Not looking like they've just been following the teacher's, particular exercise.
Right. Right. And how do they get a hold of you about that? How do they get a hold of you on Facebook and?
Yeah, so on Facebook, I am just go at Ed Beard Jr. for junior, so Ed Beard Jr. I have 3 different pages. I do have the Fantasy Artist Ed Beard Jr. Workshop. That's the Facebook page that will take you to the school, and you'll see pictures of our prior classes and stuff. The other one is Airbrush by Beard. That's another Facebook thing. So it's at Airbrush by Beard. And I do post links to these other pages. So you go to Airbrush by Beard, most of it's automotive airbrushing and different vehicles and helmets and things like that. And then if you go to at Ed Beard Jr., you'll get kind of a variety of different things that are the Renaissance fairs and different publishing things and whatever. But the Fantasy Artist Ed Beard Jr. Workshop is the main teaching Facebook page, and that's how you can find out.
I'll list them all underneath this video too, so people will just have a link to it. So
awesome.
Good. I look forward to continuing this with you, Ed. I think it'll be fun. We'll do 2 or 3 more different little subjects along the way, and it'll be great. And I appreciate all your support too. I really do.
You got it. Well done. You're doing something that's needed to be done for a long time, and you're focusing the highlight on people from beginning of the industry and beginning to get into their art form to those that have been in it for a long time. So you're getting a nice variety pack rather than just seeing those of us that have been in it for a long time. It's giving a chance for new talent to be seen and heard.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to work with Gary Worthington to get. I think it's important for all new people in airbrushing. They know the history. Terry Hill and all the people that went before us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm working to try and get that done, and we'll see.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ed. I look forward to talking to you next time, soon.
Okay.
I'm glad I got my new banner. I won't get yelled at.
It looks great.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.